Hello, welcome. Welcome to Liz Bolter Wisdom. So this is the second video that I'm making of a bit of a personal challenge for me. I've set myself the goal of making one video every single day for a week, talking about my work. This is video number 2. And today's video, I would like to talk about the work I do with the ancestors, with my ancestors, with your ancestors, with our ancestors. And I would like to talk about the ancestral healing that happens when we work with our ancestors, healing for ourselves and the healing for our whole line of ancestors, and so therefore for everybody. So it's a collective healing that happens as well as a very personal one. So I'd first of all like to share with you a vision that I received. It was probably about 18 years ago now, and I was living down in Brighton, and which is by the sea. For those of you that are not in the UK, it's quite a busy, bustling seaside town. And I was doing quite a lot of meditation at the time. I was going to various Buddhist groups, and I was very much at one with nature, sitting on the beach all the time. And I was having a lot of visions. I do get a lot of visions, as a lot of you know. And this was a period of time when they were literally flooding in, and I was opening up to a lot of the work that I now do. And so I had this recurring vision of lots of women, older women, grandmothers, sitting at spinning wheels and spinning the yarn, the thread going round, and there were just loads of them. And I would ask questions about, what does this vision mean? And the answers that I received, which I believe came from myself, from the wise part of myself, what might be called the higher self. And I received the message that we were coming to the end of spinning this particular yarn, this particular thread. And that it was time to break that thread, and that the grandmothers had been spinning this same yarn, this same narrative, and these same stories for centuries and centuries and centuries, and that we were now moving into a time where we were ready. We were ready to change that, to change that narrative, and to begin to heal those stories that have come before. So this vision just kept coming. It literally was every single day for many years. And with this vision, I would sit with this vision in meditation, and I would begin to receive messages from my own ancestors. And the messages that I was receiving were coming through as stories. They were coming through as really personal narratives, really personal feelings, responses, emotions that were traveling through from my ancestors to me. So initially there was this feeling that these were coming from outside of me, that these were coming from somewhere else. I often say, we talk to the ancestors, and I might point upward. But actually, as time has progressed and I've deepened my work, both with myself and with other people, I have this very strong feeling that we witness our stories, our ancestral stories, from within. So as my work continued to deepen with the ancestors, these stories got stronger, and I I began to work to heal these stories within myself, within my own ancestral line. So as we all know, we inherit things from our ancestors. We know this. We know this because we see it. We see it very clearly in our eye colour, perhaps, our hair, stature, all those things that tell us the story, the physical story of our ancestors. So whether it be colouring, stature, and potentially ways of moving, ways of sitting. I have a photo of my grandmother, who I didn't know that well because she died when I was quite young, my maternal grandmother. And she is sitting in a way that my mum also sits and I also sit. And it's literally just like looking at these three people in this line. Now, you could say that's come through behaviourally. We witness our families, we witness our close caregivers, and we mimic. As human beings, we are amazing at mimicking. But there is also something else that comes through. And as we say, we know it in seeing the colour of our skin, our hair, our eyes, shape of our ears, perhaps, shape of our nose, those things. But there is something deeper. There is something deeper that we can cherish. And that is that we also hold the stories of our ancestors. We hold those stories. We hold those stories. Now, for me, I often go on a kind of intellectual exploration as to where we're holding those stories. Do we hold them in our mind? Do we hold them in our energy field, our auric field? Do we hold them in our DNA? Is there a part of us that is there in the DNA from our ancestors? Or do we hold it in our bones, our cells? Is it at a real cellular level? So it's looking at kind of potential ways that we have brought forth these stories. What I have noticed in working with people and working with my own stories is that these ancestral stories resonate at different levels with different people, and with different people within one family. And they can resonate at different levels at different times throughout one person's life. So these stories rise in us. They rise in us, and by rising, they influence the way that we respond to our experiences. They influence the way that we perceive the world around us and the way that we perceive our own emotional responses to experiences and the world around us. These stories that rise in us influence the way that we interact with others and the way that we interact with ourselves. So sometimes that can be wonderful, and that can really serve us, and we can bring those wonderful wise stories through from our ancestors. But there is also the I want to say negative impact that our ancestors' stories may have on who we are, that don't necessarily serve us, and that don't necessarily serve us as individuals, as families, immediate families, extended families, friendship groups, and that don't necessarily serve us as a human consciousness. So this is big. This is our ancestral stories that we have chosen to own over many, 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 many years, centuries, a long, long time, that we have held them in us and allowed them to rise and allowed them to drive who we are. So what I feel, this vision that I received was telling me, and where we're at now and where we've been at for the last, I would say, certainly 5 years and potentially moving into 10 years, is that this is the time. This is the time of ancestral healing. This is the time to heal those stories, to hear those stories, to honor those stories, and to heal those stories, so that we can be more of a clear space in terms of how we are responding to the world around us and to our experiences. And so through a lot of the work that I do, it's hearing the stories, and sometimes just hearing your ancestors' stories can help to heal them, to allow them to dissipate, to allow them to not have that strong hold of energy influencing you in your life. And sometimes there's deeper work. There's deeper work that needs to be done, and there's layers. You know, these things often come in layers, in spirals. We delayer one part, and then we move, and there's another, and there's another. If you think about how many actual ancestors each of us has, I mean, it's, I can't even think what the number might be, but it's thousands and thousands and thousands of ancestors. And so we can start making decisions as to whether we want to hold and allow those stories to rise within us and to continue to be a part of us, or we can choose to begin to heal and release. And that is the feeling that I often receive from people's ancestors, including my own, a feeling of release. It's like, we can put it down. Thank you. There's often such gratitude I feel that comes through from our ancestors to say thank you. Thank you for taking up the baton, for being the people right now that are healing these stories, so that we can release the thread that's on those spinning wheels, and we can sever that if needed. And that may bring grief, and grief often comes up when healing is occurring. Because when we hold something in ourselves so strongly for such a long time, there is a potential feeling of a gap once those things have gone. So through healing our ancestor stories, through hearing them, through honoring them and healing them, we release ourselves. We release ourselves on a personal level, and we release ourselves as a human consciousness. We're free. We can be free of those stories that no longer serve us. And perhaps we might want to take up a new thread, and we might want to spin a new thread. And when I'm saying that, I'm imagining a luminous, sparkly, wonderful light thread that we can all begin to now spin. So that is the work that I do. Part of the work that I do is honouring our ancestors and helping other people to work through their ancestral stories, ancestral healing. So if that's something that resonates with you, please get in touch. You can email me at returntowisdom@hotmail.com. And just get in touch if you want more information. I'm always happy to answer questions as well as I can. And yeah, listen. The ancestors are wanting us to hear. We're at this time where they are they've always spoken, but this is the time where we're ready to hear. So if you want support in listening and in working through your ancestral stories, then feel free to get in touch. And thank you very much for watching this video. I will be making another one tomorrow about some more of the work that I do. And hope you have a wonderful day. And please like and subscribe and all those things. And yeah, thank you very much for listening. Take care. Thank you.